Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio, where we celebrate every single day the amazing people who are working all over the state of Mississippi to make this a great place to live, work, and play. I've got a great show today. Austin Golden is going to be joining me here shortly from Golden and Barge Line, someone I really enjoy catching up with. I just want to share with you real quick something that I got from a newsletter that my son Justin shared with me. It's a newsletter. It's a Christian newsletter that actually goes out to men. It's not every day. I'm not exactly sure the cadence of it yet. I've just recently signed up for it, but already I can tell you it's going to be really good. But here's just a little segment of it that I think applies well to the fact that if we all work together, little small acts of kindness by all of us add up to be something very, very significant. And his name is John Tyson, incidentally. And here's what he wrote. The truth is, most of the things that will change our lives are not that dramatic. They're just small moments to act when others don't, to wade in at the least convenient point, to remember when others forget. Desmond Tutu said, do your little bit of good where you are. We're in this moment. It's the little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world. And then John went on to write, small acts of kindness and love, little bits of good woven together over time. This is how a generation of men will overwhelm the brokenness of this world. Every man longs to keep the darkness at bay, yet it turns out it's easier than you think. Kind, normal, loving men meeting the needs in front of them. This is how the light comes in. And, this is a men's newsletter. This, though, would apply to anybody, any single person. And I agree. It's just small acts of kindness can make a great big difference. In the world of social media today, it's really, really easy to lash out. We should consider doing that less. So now let's turn the page and move over to my friend Austin Golden. He's the president and CEO of Golden Barge Lines. We'll remind you what his company is all about, but someone I really enjoy catching up with. How you doing, Austin?
I'm doing great, Ricky. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. There's a lot to talk about. I mean, because of the work that you do to move refined petrochemical products and chemicals throughout all the U.S. inland waterways, you have a real good feel for the economy, don't you? And what do you think? Yeah.
Well, we touch a lot of it for sure, Ricky. And like we've been talking about, I'm personally a little skeptical of a full-scale pullback. I see a lot of economic activity on our side. I think one of the points that we've seen the most probably tangible impact about what the local Mississippi economy is doing. We are seeing a lot more people come back to look for work. It seems like the people that are coming back the most are the people that are in their late 20s, early 30s that probably tried to start their own business or did start their own business and quickly realized that an unplanned mechanical outage, some kind of health insurance premium that went up, the business insurance that went up, made it real obvious that the larger, more consistent structure was probably better, especially one like ours and a lot of other industries that have a lot of verticality associated with it. You can be promoted and make more money through our model rather than your own model a lot of times. So that has been an indicator that I think it's become more difficult to borrow money to start a company. It's become more expensive to maintain that company. And they're coming back to our position. But the more employees you see looking for work, the more you must think the economy's slowing down. So I think that there could be some pace to this that could offset it. But I think for as far as I can tell, regardless of the tea leaves, our economy's strong and the products that we're moving are in demand and the volumes that we're moving are very, very high.
Well, look, you think about it's interesting that some people, of course, we heard a lot about this during the pandemic. People kick tires to their own entrepreneurial efforts. Some would succeed, some wouldn't. Some would succeed and still see that it's really hard to to maintain that direction. And as you pointed out, if you have to borrow money at all to be able to kind of keep things moving, it's a really difficult environment now to be borrowing money for your business, and the cost of capital is just so high. But the barrier to entry in your industry is extremely high. You think about what it costs to invest in a barge. I mean, the boats that you guys are building. I mean, it's significant barrier to entry, isn't it?
Well, it is, and my dad is now, he's still active in the business. This is his 51st year in the business, and we had sold a previous business, and so we had as a family, we had a cash event that allowed us to be able to recapitalize into a new company. The old company was very dated and very unorganized. It was just a hodgepodge of equipment that had been cobbled together as my dad at my age was making it happen. And as he fought through a very slow 80s economically, he got to the point in the 90s where we could sell the business. And then as we got wrapped into the new business, we started in one outlet mall with just barges, and then moved to a second outlet mall with a few more barges and a boat or two. And then we moved down to it really is a mobile home that we had down by the river, as Chris Farley would tell you. But as far as the city zoning board was concerned, it was a temporary modular office unit. And we had 4 of those temporary modular office units. And my competition was calling us the paper box towboat company that was ready to sell, that we didn't even have an office. We just had, a trailer down by the river. And so as we grew and got more legitimate, we built an office. We started scaling on the equipment, but this is a process that it took 51 years to get to the place we're at now, and really in the last 20 years, it's taken a lot of slow patience. We also have the ability to stomach the risk that this business takes on for the margin that it is. The margin that we make isn't great. The margin we make that's worth it is the margin we make on our equity sheet. Whenever we start paying down a lot of debt on this very expensive equipment and start clearing that out, and you have this realization that at that point you can start pulling some free cash flow out of the company. But at any given moment, we could have a big incident that could cost a lot of money with people or products. And so it's a slow roll. A lot of the competition I have is family institutionalized businesses that are very old, that have a lot of risk and operational appetite, or publicly traded companies that need a piece. Usually a towboat company is a piece of a larger company that found out they were paying a lot for boats and barges, and why don't we just buy those boats and barges to move products for trading, or family businesses. So not a lot of idle ownership. The ownership's either involved with the products on the barges or they're involved with the operation itself. And yeah, it takes a long grow of financial capital to be able to get to where you have a substantial operation, which is what, to the first comment, that's what people want to work for. That's a stable environment that we're providing. So that's got its own benefit.
What's interesting about your story, you go back again with your dad starting the first company, and kind of, as you pointed out, hodgepodging it together and finding success, ultimately being able to sell the company. When you think about starting over, you have the opportunity to take all of those experiences and parlay those and say it's truly zero-based budgeting. If we're going to build costs back into the company, what do we want to do? Well, we don't have to have that over there. We can do this that way. We need newer equipment, because if we have newer equipment, our maintenance costs are going to be less, and on and on and on. And you just kind of, like a snowball, kind of built it like that, and just only built costs in that made sense to a sustainable company. And sometimes it's better to start over than to try to fix something.
We see that a lot. We see that a lot in our industry, where the equipment, especially as time rolls on, technology brings out a competitive advantage in fuel burn or reliability. But one thing I will say that's kind of the secret sauce here in Vicksburg, and if anybody ever comes to Vicksburg, you can kind of ask around and probably run into somebody that works at one of these companies I'm about to describe. But we have 4 towboat companies that are here in Vicksburg that move different products. We have Golding Barge Line, Yazoo River Towing, Magnolia Marine, and now Terrell River Service. And Terrell River Service is a company that is still listed headquarters in Lake Providence, Louisiana, but all their upper management lives here in Vicksburg, and they're really running a lot of the operation out of Vicksburg at the senior level. And I think that that's a testament to Vicksburg as a river town. There's really become only a handful of places that can host these companies. Uh, New Orleans, Houston along the Gulf Coast, and Mobile. If you come upriver, it's Vicksburg and Memphis and Paducah. And Memphis is really more the terminaling and some of the services side, but Paducah and Vicksburg have become really two of the largest towboat company hosting communities in the country. Nashville's also got a few companies, but that's Nashville. You would expect that. But for Vicksburg, we're as an industry, we supply a lot of economic activity here, but the community provides a lot of really good employees and an opportunity to do big business in a small town that people like living in. So I think that's our secret sauce.
And it allows when you have that scale, that number of companies, four in your case, the scale of support industries, it's going to be better for you guys because, you got to build to that capacity, and that's ultimately good for everybody. Hey, when we come back on the other side, we'll talk with Austin Golding, who's the president and CEO of Golding Barge Line, about the Mississippi River. And, it's been low again. We talked about it last year, but it's even lower now. Woo! We need some rain. We'll see you after this break. From the Citizens Bank studio, welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show. I really enjoy my visits with Austin Golding from Golding Barge Line. There's so many topics that he and I can get into. He's a bright young leader in this state, leading a family business that has tremendous responsibility. Hey, let's remind people, we talk about moving petrochemicals and all this stuff, but give people a sense of scale about where you do business and
Sure.
The kind of business that you do.
So we're located in Vicksburg, Mississippi as a headquarters. And out of this headquarters in Vicksburg, we have about 35 to 40 employees every day that come here. We have 31 towboats that run all over the country. We have 66 tank barges that carry 30,000 barrels of clean petroleum apiece in them every day. So 27 boats are moving those 66 barges. And then we have 4 boats that are pushing rock barges that are owned by a rock company we work for, a Mississippi company, Warren Paving Company. And Warren Paving, Stephen Warren, great Mississippians, great Mississippi company, and they're going up against some big boys and winning. And we're a part of that. We're a part of that team too. So I want to brag and throw them a shout out if I could. Well, our geographic location, we have a third of our operation is between New Orleans and Brownsville, Texas. A third of our operation is between New Orleans and Panama City, Florida. And then a third is from New Orleans up through the system, through Memphis, into St. Louis, all the way to Pittsburgh, Chicago, Minneapolis, and even into Nashville and up the Arkansas. So we're really broken into 3 quadrants. That changes as contracts change, routes change, demands change. The hot spots right now for us, Memphis, carrying a lot of product out of the refinery there for Valero out of Memphis. Out of Pascagoula, Mississippi, like we've talked about on your show, all through the Gulf Coast, different products there. And the new one has really been Brownsville, Texas. We're carrying a lot of product to Brownsville. Mexico would rather buy their finished product from us than try to make it themselves. So we're sitting there, Johnny, on the spot with barge full of product. Whenever the border is open, they can take it off of our trucks, off of our barges by truck and move it into the country. But they have a pretty volatile situation there on the border that requires a lot of probably unmentionable processes that I'm sure at the border. They're not in my, I don't have to luckily deal with any of that. I just have to get the product into the shore tank on the U.S. side of the border. And then as people buy it from Mexico, they come into the U.S. to get it. And there's all kind of back and forth. So we have a lot of delays down there. But right now, when we can go, it's hot. They want it. They want it now. And they'll pay a good penny for it. Again, I don't get paid back for any of the product. I'm like Uber. Major oil companies and traders call me and they say, I have this amount of product. I need to move it from this location to this location. We give them a quote and we go from there. So we're Uber for oil companies and trading companies that have to move those products in really those 3 different regions of the country.
I don't remember you mentioning Brownsville before. Is that new?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty new. Some of the bigger steps, Pemex, the Mexican oil company, the state-owned Mexican oil company has made is they've moved into Shell Deer Park. They bought that refinery from Shell in Houston, Texas, as well as some other plays you can find, I'm sure, through Google that are that are more related to them being able to tap into the volume offset in the U.S., where we're not using as much of our product as we used to because of efficiencies and technologies in the EV world. Well, that length is being eaten up by the developing world in Mexico, Central and South America. We're doing a ton of export terminaling, where the terminal handles a product and then it either takes it by truck to Mexico or by ship to South America. We have the best kitchen in the world. We make great finished products. We make them cheaply, we make them safely, we make them consistently. So these oil companies, we've also talked about on your show, Ricky, they may have the U.S. flag out front in the parking lot, but their balance sheet is very international, and their allegiance might be to their employees and where they live, but it's certainly not to this country to give us a brother-in-law deal on their products. They're going to sell it to wherever they can make the biggest margin on it. And so right now, this hemisphere is using a lot of the product we make in the Gulf Coast.
Well, you and I have had we've had entire shows focused on that reality that, it's energy independence is important, but energy independence is defined much more specifically than what we might talk about politically, for example. One of the things that I've come to appreciate is that it is a worldwide market where products, even from Chevron, are moving into sort of a global economy. And it's not like American can decide what the price of a barrel of oil is going to be. And energy independence includes the conversation you and I had, and we did have that conversation as it relates to Mexico buying that refinery. Instead of taking refinery offline in America, we should be adding, refineries. Instead of selling refineries to a Mexican company, we should be upgrading that for American purposes. And we are just not aligned as an industry. Now, one of the interesting things, and I know you're watching it closely, we talked about the EV world before. But EV cars are not selling like hotcakes. I mean, the people want gas-powered cars. It is clear that over time, and you and I have talked about energy companies moving more towards sustainable. The reality is this conversion is going to take 20 or 30 years probably, and we can try to will it to happen over 2 or 3 years like this administration is doing. We're not going to get where we need to be. We've got to drill more in America, refine more in America, and be more realistic about our energy policy as it relates to advanced technologies, EVs, for example. And I wouldn't be able to say what I just said if it weren't for you. But it is a complicated world, and it's too often simplified, isn't it?
Well, Ricky, you've seen two people put money where their mouth is recently with Exxon and Chevron, both buying huge shale plays that are already positioned with multi-billion-dollar acquisitions of domestic crude production and exploration. And that is a way to look at it, is a real statement that those two companies see oil exploration and production as a key part of their business going forward. What else we're seeing, I think, is politically, how does this shake out? Well, politically, EVs become popular when gas is $5 a gallon. But when gas is as low as it is now, and you're going to try to put me in an EV, I'm not doing it. And so I think that's part of this equation. I think the other parts that are coming up soon are, I think we're going to lower the carbon density of the oil and gas products we're using by making them with renewable properties. And so you're still going to have a gallon of gas or a gallon of diesel, but the carbon intensity of that gallon is going to be a lot less in the future than it is now. Combine that with hybrid technology, I think EVs have a lot of headwinds. I think they have a lot of headwinds to become a reality and solely to themselves. I saw a great meme the other day that had a road sign that had a shotgun blast through the middle of it. And it said, if your hometown has road signs like this, you probably don't have an EV charging station in it. And, I think that's the truth. The rest of the country is not outfitted for this. And even if you put a charging station on every corner, if I have to stop at that corner for 30 to 45 minutes to charge it versus 5 minutes and a hot cup of coffee at a gas station, still losing. So, you got to come up with ways that I think we can bridge the technology that exists with the needs of the consumer to create something that's practical, not just ideal.
There's an EV charging station up in D'Iberville, and I had to bring a lawnmower, electric lawnmower, I might add, battery powered lawnmower, to get some warranty work done on it. And when I didn't even know that it was there. It's in a parking lot there near where I went. It's across from Walmart, and so I looked over there. I said, "That's interesting. I didn't realize that was there." So I watched for a few minutes, and there were several cars there that were charging. And by the way, it was like 100 degrees this day. I mean, extremely high humidity. It was a miserable day. And I went in and didn't even turn my truck off because I wanted the air condition to stay on. So when I got back in it, but I watched over there, and several people were there. They were all standing outside their cars. Because you see, you're not certainly not going to be in your car while you're doing it. One, it was a small family with a small child, and gosh, it looked uncomfortable, and they had to stay there for a long. They were standing there in the heat on this pavement. When I went inside, they were still there. When I came back out, I watched and thought that this is kind of awkward. Americans like long drives. They like to be able to go in their cars and take long drives. I do think that we're going to be talking a lot more about hybrid. I mean, with the improvements that's being made that you just mentioned about the carbon of gasoline, and then the advances in the technology that enable you to do both. I think that's where the future is going to be in the short term, don't you?
Oh, for sure. I think it's there now. I think that's all consumer driven too. That's not driven by subsidies or mandates. And so I think the consumer is going to find the most practical application. And that technology, I saw one the other day where there's a battery powered element in a vehicle they're making that the gas powered engine charges the battery constantly, so you never have to stop to charge it, and you have a lot less fuel burn. I think that's great. I think that kind of stuff keeps all of us in a position where we're trending towards constant improvement and real improvement.
I had a hybrid hunting vehicle once that did that. It charged the battery while we were using the gas side, and it was efficient, not great, but pretty good. And you can see where that technology was headed. And of course, it's just there now in a lot of respects. Hey, when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Austin Golding from Golding Barge Line. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. I have my friend Austin Golding, who's the president and CEO of Golding Barge Line, a family business that is very, very important to Mississippi and very, very important to the energy sector in particular. So they're in a really good position. They sort of can see the barometer of things from an economic and energy policy point of view, just because of the amount of product that they're moving around the inland waterways of the United States. And by the way, people who fish offshore, like I do, you probably pass their barges on a regular basis headed out offshore, because they're running boats constantly back and forth from Chevron to the Mississippi River and beyond. So they're always out there working, and they have to pay very, very close attention to the weather. We've had, I don't know, are you guys running right now with these stiff east winds?
We'll run some. Some of our boats are runners, depending on which jump they have to make. If it's a big open water, we're probably not running. But if it's a quick A to B and it's not that much volatility, we'll take it.
Stay on the intercoastal mostly. Yeah. So look, as we think about water and weather and all that. The situation on the Mississippi River, man, you thought last year was bad, then you get into this year, and here we are. This big heat dome sits over America for months on end. It creates gigantic challenges for every single business that depends on the Mississippi River to move product, doesn't it?
It does, and it creates a situation where I think the companies that are a part of it learn the limitations of some of their supply chains as it comes to the river. The river itself is still pretty reliable. It's the ports and the facilities that we go in and out of are not set up for 50 feet of variance. So, I think we've become pretty accustomed to operating in this space. Our ability to operate has become pretty routine. I hate to say it, in an extreme environment. But to have this kind of low water extend into December is going to be pretty unprecedented. And you're seeing some pretty real bank collapse around the river. You're seeing some infrastructure be out of the water a little too long. There's even some talk about the old Mississippi River Bridge here needs more water pressing it back downriver because of the slope that the footings on the bridge. That bridge has been here for a long time, and that bridge has never had this much of its pilings exposed without any water pressure on it for this long in its life. So there's a lot of structural issues that depend on the river being up as well, that they're starting to collapse. I mean, a lot of our docks are offline because they were sitting on the mud; they weren't floating anymore. And so it's definitely a tough environment to work in and try to work around. But like we've talked about, it presents us a great opportunity to provide value, improve our worth.
Well, what's interesting, as you've talked about in the past, I mean, for some people, the Corps of Engineers is the worst thing that ever happened, and for some people, the Corps of Engineers is the best thing that ever happened. But their work on the Mississippi River, it is indisputable how important it is. And during these low water times, the Corps has really given the Corps an opportunity to sort of redouble their efforts, hasn't it?
Well, they're running, I believe, 9 dredges right now along the system, and it's keeping it cut and keeping it viable. And I will give them 100% credit for the men and women that are running these dredges and running these river operations live. They're doing a great job. I think where the Corps could improve and where a lot of people run into problems is at the very, very top, where the millions of dollars it takes to keep us updated and new projects online, cost overruns, cost estimates, and timelines are just a mess. And I get that inflation is a big part of a lot of those messes, and that the uncertainty around a lot of the workforce it takes to do those projects is a part of those messes that we having to clean up. But whenever our projects double in time and double in budget, it feels like a complete waste. And I just wonder how that can be that many people that work inside a bureaucratic organization like that can't get it within at least a few percentages of being.
Yeah, you think about the massive flood control projects that they've done over so many years, combined with the amount of money it takes to keep the Mississippi River flowing the way it's flowing, because you can, for people who don't pay attention to this, the Mississippi River is naturally sort of wanting to find the path of least resistance, and that it takes a yeoman's effort to keep it running the way that it is. I mean, you get to see it every day, but it is extremely expensive, and it takes tremendous expertise to keep that river where it's navigable, doesn't it?
It does, and I think what we got to realize is a country, from an internal standpoint, is that this river not only supplies commerce via its waterways, it also is a great source of fresh water supply. There's a lot of flood control that goes into those projects. And there's a lot of sustainability and environmental positivity that goes into those that create and protect wetlands and have a lot of nature loves stability. And so a lot of it has become a lot healthier ecosystem around these areas that aren't being devastated by what we class as a natural disaster every few years. So if we can contain it, it's a lot of multiple benefits as far as the taxpayer goes to this system, not to mention a super highway that is the envy of the rest of the world.
Well, one of the things that you guys had to do, are probably way more than I'm going to oversimplify it so people can really kind of envision what's happening here, is that you take a certain barge and if you fill it up to its maximum level that you want it to be in order to be super efficient, it's heavy, it draws a lot of water. In some cases, you can't fill it up as much as you want to, so then it takes more barges to do the same amount of product when the river's up. The other point that you made, and you can expand on both of these, is that imagine you're in a boat and the water's super low and you don't have a dock that will just naturally reposition itself to whatever the water depth is at that moment. What that means is when you pull up, you can't get off your boat. The infrastructure is not built for these, in most cases, not built for these low water scenarios. How do you deal with that?
So the first part is we try to calculate the maximum draft we can operate on safely. And, once we do that, we can kind of adjust that number. But you're right. You say you have, just for round numbers, you have 10 foot of draft. If you go to an 8 foot draft, you've taken 20% out of that barge. Well, chances are that 20% was paying for the whole effort, or was the reason the whole effort was going into it. So now you're down at break even or running at a loss to avoid a larger loss. At the dock scenario, a lot of the floating docks, you can't. The water's all the way run out from underneath them, and they're sitting in the mud. We can't even get close to them. They're offline. And the ones that are super tall, that becomes a safety hazard, getting people on and off, and maybe even the hoses and some of the offloading equipment it isn't long enough to reach us, and they go offline. And so if something is not operable, that's one thing. But if something's operable and it's dangerous, that's another. And both of those scenarios are definitely present and possible in our world as we speak.
Each one of your boats and the crews that are on them, they're like little cities, aren't they? I mean, they have to be self-contained. The captain has to be somebody who can make decisions on a dime. I mean, you never know what this guy's going to face. The talent that you've amassed there, the institutional knowledge, the professionalism and experience that you've amassed there, it's super significant. And that probably, when you contemplate about that, I'm sure some of that keeps you up at night, but it also helps you sleep better at night knowing that level of experience is there. But it's significant, isn't it?
Well, I'll tell you how significant it is. It dictates our scale. We have customers right now that would take 2 Golding barge lines. And we could grow easily double in size in 2 years if we just press the button. But at that point, I know we're hurting people, we're spilling products, we're not as good a company as we are now. And so the talent that you have dictates how fast you can grow. And I've had plenty of competitors that have blasted right through that and grown to grow. And we eat their lunch. They're giving everybody excuses not to do business with them. We're giving everybody excuses to value our business. And that is totally indicative of the type of talent we have on the boat. And if people are out there that are not proficient, that don't care, that are a warm body that we needed, we're asking for trouble, versus people out there that are trained or handpicked and are trusted and are known and have pride in the work because they know they're part of something that recognizes their effort. You'll have a lot better success with that crew. So yeah, the talent we have is what dictates our scale, not demand.
You said that so clearly, Austin, and having been a former CEO, I can so relate to everything you just said, that sometimes growth for the sake of growth, what happens is you're not necessarily chasing the margin, you're chasing the top line revenue growth. And you're not really, especially in your business, when the amount of investment in capital, the amount of investment in people and experience and all these things can't keep up with the top line revenue growth. You're in an industry that has environmental ramifications that could be very, very significant. And you got to be smart. When we get on the other side, I want to talk more in core value inside your company that doesn't let you outpace yourself, because that's actually a really important part of your company that's going to be enduring for you, that's going to enable you to stay healthy for many years to come. We'll talk more about that on the other side with Austin Golding when we come back. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I'm thrilled to have my friend Austin Golding from Golding Barge Line with us. He's the president and CEO of this family-owned business, and it's always interesting to talk to him. We learn a lot about a lot. Hey, I want to come back to the enduring core values, but before I do that, man, when I think about Vicksburg this time of year, I think about deer hunting and duck hunting. I mean, right. As Steve Azar said on the show the other day, what people wear changes. People might have their business attire on, and suddenly, you see a lot of mossy oak and orange around town, don't you?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, we especially on 61 North and 61 South. You get around Delta Outfitters. My good buddy Eddie Buckner up there. You go see Eddie and get outfitted and get ready to roll. Maybe catch, you walk into Beechwood Steakhouse here in town, and you see a lot of guys wearing camo, having steaks come down from the deer camp. We got a new place here for anybody new to coming to Vicksburg, Tommy's Barbecue on 61 North. If you're headed to the duck camp or the deer camp this winter, stop by there and get you some brisket or some of those ribs there. I'm telling you, I don't know why Tommy stopped in Vicksburg. I'm glad he did. That's some.
You sound like you've been there more than once.
Oh man, he knows me. He knows me by sound of my footsteps, probably. But no, it's really cool. There's this is kind of a cool indicator that at our local FBO, at our local airport, we see fuel sales jump for private aviation during hunting season. So you got some big money folks coming in, flying in for the outdoors activities that are here around Vicksburg.
Yeah, I have friends, as you know, that own land on Kings Point, and my son Jordan and I enjoy spending time with them there. I think you're actually looking across at Kings Point as we speak, huh?
I can see it right now. You got about 6 towboats held up, hanging out, waiting to come through the bridges, tied off in the trees right there. So.
There you go. But yeah, it's a wonderful time of the year. I love being out in the outdoors, and as I say on my show all the time, SuperTalk Outdoors, it's about the experience. It's not about just the hunting. And you've been around it all your life. You're not a big deer hunter. You do some duck hunting, is that right?
I would. I like to class myself as the guy that's going to make sure that there's fresh ice in everybody's whiskey drink, the game's on, and the steaks are cooked just right back at the camp. And I won't kill the vibe. I'll have camo on, but you won't catch me in a duck blind or a deer stand very many days. More likely to be on the golf course, and then I know about when it gets to be dark, the rest of the guys are coming off the stand. So I might still have a ball marker in my pocket or something like that, but I'm more of a golfer and a artist than a hunter for most times.
Hey, listen, the reality of the situation is that I play golf. I used to play golf once a year to remind myself why I don't play, because to be a good fisherman or to be a good hunter, you got to go do it. And if you're doing those things, you can't play golf, because if you're going to play golf, you got to play golf, don't you?
Well, you do, and I do a lot more of that for work than I do hunting. And so, but truth be told, it's the best deer hunting and duck hunting environment I've been around in central Mississippi over here, and it's a huge part of our local economy. And I tell you, I'd highly suggest anybody get over here and not only check out that part of Vicksburg, but also the National Military Park's a great thing to check out this time of year too. It's a little cooler. It's a great walk. It's a great way to get out and spend the day. And in my opinion, it's the most underrated attraction in Mississippi. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, Vicksburg is a thriving region of the state. And in fact, one of the reasons why I referred to Mississippi on my outdoor show as the capital of the outdoors in America. You can't beat what you could experience there, not just in the hunting, but in all the ancillary amenities that you get from coming to a place like Vicksburg. You can't beat that anywhere in the country. Hey, listen, let's just close the show with this. Enduring core values that are built into a company are the things that enable it to make the kind of decisions that you're making, not to grow too fast, because you got a lot of responsibility to do what you do in a very safe way. And you also have to keep your company sustainable, which means it has to be financially successful. What is that value? How did that get built into your company?
Well, my dad is our leader from that standpoint, and he's a very, very much so a straight up, straightforward, honorable guy. And, when you get in a business that has a lot of opportunities to make the wrong decisions and cover things up and try to take shortcuts, eventually it catches up to you. And so I think my dad, being a strong Christian man that has a very high, intense sense of honesty and a very strict moral code. When you get into a business that people trust their relatives to live on your boats and trust them, and you have to curate their world for 8 months out of the year, and they trust you with them. You want to make sure that you're sending your people to work at a company that's run by people with high moral fiber. And so we don't just have a place that people come to work. We have a place people come and live in and work. And so they know who you are. The customers know who you are. They know your character. And when you're touching them 24 hours a day, you got to be built the right stuff.
So when I read that section from John Tyson, that newsletter, and that quote from Desmond Tutu, "Do your little bit of good where you are," it's those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world. Your family gets that, don't they?
I like to think so. My dad's very, very charitable, and he loves Mississippi. And truth be told, maybe to put a bow on that, this company could be located anywhere in the country. And we located in Vicksburg, Mississippi for a reason. And it's because we align with the values and the people here in this community.
That's very, very well said. Austin, it's been great to catch up with you, my friend.
Great to catch up with you too, Ricky. All my very best.
Good luck with the river. Good luck with the river. This has been Austin Golding from Golding Barge Line. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.